Hi, and welcome to a very special edition of the RF Fitness Podcast. I am your host, Rob Finlayson, elder brother, certified personal trainer, and mom haver. And I'm here with my co-host.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rachel. I am little sister and certified fit person and also a mom.
And we're here with a very special guest today, our mom.
Hey!
Mom, how would you like the internet to know you?
I'm Mom.
Perfect. She sure is.
She's the internet's mom.
Yep. So, normally we talk, just me and Rachel, about your fitness journey, weight loss, all that stuff. Today we're going to throw that to the side. We're going to talk about moms. It's Mother's Day.
Ew.
Mother's Day special occasion. So, first things first, Mom, I wanted, because on one of our first episodes, either episode 1 or 2, you sent me a message after the episode came out about the real when Rachel was tied to a tree.
Oh my
and
God.
what really happened when Dad drilled a hole in his hand and I was there.
Yes.
You
Why
had
did I
some-
get that message?
You would, because, I don't know,
You're not the boss.
because I run the podcast.
What the
It's on the podcast thing, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you don't have to look at the metrics either, bro. Trust me.
Okay.
They're just fine. So, Mom, could you could you widen our scope and maybe give us like an HD better look here? Because clearly
Yes.
your memory of
1080?
this time is better than ours. Yeah.
So let's start with the tree episode,
Yes, please.
which was extremely disturbing. I
That
cannot
was pretty
remember if I believe I was away from the house because that's the
Yeah,
only
you
way.
were not there. Yeah.
That's the only way your father would have thought he could get away with that
Ever
kind
dared.
of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember driving the car up down the street on the cul-de-sac,
Because we're at the
getting
very end of the
closer
cul-de-sac.
thinking,
Mm-hmm.
what about this doesn't seem right? And as I pulled into the driveway, I could then clearly see my daughter tied to a tree.
Roughly how old was I?
You were not over 10, maybe 9 or 10.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
And
Perfect age to be tied to a tree.
the birch tree had one end of the rope. There was probably about 10 to 15 feet of length, and then it was tied to you, the other end.
10 to 15, that's safe.
And I don't have perfect recollection,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm pretty sure I jumped out of the car, slammed the door shut, and yelled something at your father to the effect of, "What are you doing?"
It wasn't like, honey, I love you.
No. And he proceeded to attempt to explain to me that his theory was that Rachel would act as ballast to the tree felling and would make sure that the tree didn't fall on the neighbor's house but in the space between our houses. And
Okay.
I thought, number one, that's a big burden to place on a 10-year-old child. And number two, I think you've effectively created a human trebuchet.
Yeah.
You're going to fling her across the yards of multiple homes.
Yeah.
And then I think the real yelling started,
Yeah.
which resulted in Rachel being untied and the
Good.
new scheme being considered, which was, okay,
Hire an arbalist.
if I was not going to agree to his well thought out plan of using his daughter as ballast for the tree felling, that he would then tie the rope that had been tied to Rachel to the bumper of our minivan,
To the
minivan.
Okay.
our lovely Toyota Sienna.
Yes, Sienna. I recall it well.
And your father's instructions to me, and God, that man had a lot of gall, was drive fast enough so it pulls the tree towards you, but and the tree won't land on the van because that would be bad. I
Yeah.
didn't get this much concern on him for his daughter.
Well, Rachel can just run out of the way.
Not so fast that the tires of the van would rip up the lawn.
Oh my God.
I had to achieve the perfect magic speed.
Yeah.
More words were exchanged. I got
More
in the
sweet
van,
nothings.
rolled my window down. More words were exchanged.
Sure.
As I was starting, to accelerate, and more words were exchanged.
A lot of
These
back
were
and forth.
all unpleasant words.
Communication is the groundwork of any marriage.
Yeah, it's the
Lots
key
of words,
for a successful
being
marriage.
exchanged. That's good.
Wasn't sure what they were at that point, but I agree with that. And eventually, yes, the tree came down. While your father again had the gall, the nerve to yell at me and tell me that I wasn't driving the right speed, and wasn't I lucky that the tree didn't fall on the van and ruin the van, and wasn't I lucky that the tires didn't rip up the lawn, because everything I was doing was ultimately going to end in that. And it's like, wow, we have done some serious damage here, and I'm not talking about the tree.
Yeah.
This will be talked about in a future podcast.
I would have been like 14 for this.
Yeah,
right?
you were
13,
not there.
No.
No, I don't know where you were, but you were not tied to a tree.
I was.
Or.
Yeah, I was off doing something else. Maybe.
And Rachel was, what the police would call a willing victim.
I was just happy
Wanted
to
to
be
make
there.
her dad happy,
Yeah.
contribute to whatever the solution was, and
Amateur
then
arbalist, yeah.
but the look on her face changed as I was yelling at her dad and explaining the
Realizing
dangers.
maybe the realities.
And I think there was
Yeah.
just like, Dad was gonna do what to me?
Am I in
Dad?
danger?
Yeah. So
Promised me a
that
juice box after this.
Yeah.
that was the Fuller tree story. The hand drilling story was, yes, it was an awful, hot, humid day.
Yeah.
And your dad was working on the never-ending deck project.
Yes.
And he, at the end of the day, decided that it made sense, and I don't know why this crossed his mind, that it made sense that he would use his non-dominant hand
Right.
with a spade drill bit.
Right.
A spade bit, okay?
So enormous.
Enormous.
I was there. I
Yeah.
remember.
And with one leg on the ladder
Yes.
and one leg on the ground, with his newly acquired bifocals to which he had not yet adjusted. And he was near heat stroke. And the
Man, you
magic
lumped it up
happened.
too hard. Yeah, you sure
The
did.
magic.
And then he comes
But think
running.
of all the money you saved by Dad doing the deck.
Oh, don't go there. Rachel is sleeping on the couch. You were a toddler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rob was running around playing, doing something. Your dad comes in, and the brown man was gray. This was a bad color change. He's on his knees in the bathroom, running his gushing, blooding hand under the sink.
And it's going right through.
With, now he's wrapping hand towels around it, telling me to get more towels. And again, the man just had a lot of nerve. Bossing me around, saying, it was clear to me what happened.
Sure.
And clear to me what needed to happen. And
Anyone
we needed
could
to go
see.
to the emergency room. And he said, okay, you have to find Rob. You have to find Robbie. And it's like, okay, I could do that. And you have to get Rachel, we have to go to the emergency room. And it's like, yeah. And but then your dad decides in the split moment that I'm not doing things fast enough or to his liking. So he scoops Rachel up off the couch.
Oh.
Runs outside with her with his hand wrapped in
Yeah.
dish towels to our neighbor, Kevin.
Why?
And saying, and he said, Kevin, you have to take care of Rachel. We have to go to the emergency room. And I said, Kevin, you are not taking that baby. She is
What?
coming with us. Robbie, get in the car.
Get in the van,
Ray,
yeah.
get in the car. And I'm carrying
yeah.
you. And I at those times, you didn't have a car seat.
Sure, yeah.
Because we didn't do car seats for kids your age at that time. And
Back in the day.
we're in the van and we're driving down the road, and your dad has the front passenger seat reclined. He's got his hand elevated above his
Lord.
head, and Rob has his face smashed against the window, and he's looking dire. And I said, Robbie, what's wrong? And you took your face off the window, like snap, the head snap, and you just pointed at your father, and you just pointed, and that was it. No other communication. And he said, that! And I said, okay, all right, resume your position. Nose back on the glass.
I hear you.
And
Yeah.
Rachel's just like, ooh. And we get to the emergency room, and I've got to manage these 2 squirmy kids and my bleeding husband.
Yeah.
It was just...
Was calling 911 not
No,
a
no.
good idea? Or?
No.
Okay.
No, 911 didn't want anything to do with this.
All right.
Yeah, they would not have
Not their problem.
been happy. No, we
Yeah.
could have gotten there.
And you did.
And we did.
And everyone survived.
It went through the flesh,
Yeah.
not through muscle and not through tendons. How you can have a spade bit
Yeah.
go through your hand, I don't know. That man had a weird kind of luck.
He had weird luck. That's what we talked about when,
Yeah.
when they told the story. Yeah, he's got weird luck. Well, thanks for providing a little clarity for that, Mom. Yeah, I appreciate it. You had to set the
Color
had to set
commentary.
had to set the record straight. So in honor of Mother's Day, we talked a lot about Dad already. So
Yeah.
let's get him out of here.
Poor Dad. He's dead. Good grief.
So that
All
was
right.
easy. Let's talk a little bit about you guys. I have some interview questions
Okay.
for you guys. A few for both of you and a few for you individually. But
Yeah.
for both of you, what does being a mom mean to you? And we can interpret that question however. What does it mean to you to be a mom?
I mean, I think, obviously I'm a fresh mom, and Mom is an
An old mom.
expired
not
mom.
Yeah. A less fresh.
Past my best buy date.
Which
Yeah.
was experienced?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Experienced?
Yeah, definitely. So
level.
right now with a just turned 2-year-old, I feel like being a mom means that you're nothing else.
Sure.
And that, which I know will pass. Not completely, but the fact that, everything revolves around being a mom. My personality is mom. My life is mom. My activities are mom. Which I like. I love getting out with my kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people comment on, like, what a good mom I am. And I'm like, I'm not doing this for her. It's for me.
Don't get it twisted.
Yeah, right.
Purely
I'm out here
selfish.
just trying to catch some mom friends like Pokemon.
Pokemoms.
Pokemoms. Yeah, so I think being completely selfless,
Mm-hmm.
it means being the primary parent for me, and being in charge of the house, the kid, in turn kind of the husband, and telling him where to be and when. because
running the
I plan
admin.
this activity.
Running logistics for the whole house. Yeah. Mom, how about what does being mommy to you?
Well, of course, 37 years into it, it means a lot different than it did when my kids
You're a
were
little deeper into
infants.
the field here, yeah.
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 I will say that from the very beginning, when I contemplated becoming a mom, I could not fathom the depth to which I would love my children. I could not fathom the depth to which it would change my life, or how it would change my life. And as I joke and many other people do, I was a perfect parent, and then I had
Until you
children.
had kids, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I do remember your dad and I having many discussions about what kind of parents we were going to be. We had complicated relationships with our own parents. And we knew that we wanted to do things very differently than our parents had done.
Yeah.
And, generation to generation, I would hope that every parent thinks that. I'm going to do things because everyone knows more, they grow more. If you're not thinking I can be a better parent and I'm going to do it differently, then I don't know what's wrong with you. Because, you can look back and reflect on my parents were imperfect.
Sure.
You're going to be imperfect. But you can envision a type of perfection, a type of parenting that you didn't experience that maybe you wanted to. That would have been important to you.
Yeah.
So in that sense, we were very conscientious. And one of the things I remember thinking very early on was, I didn't want just a parent relationship. I wanted a grandparent relationship with my children. And the reason being that I heard, like we still do, many people saying, oh, I'm a grandparent and it's so different from being a parent and I get to experience them on this different level. And, the love there's a quantifiable difference, a qualitative difference. And it's like, I don't want to wait to be a grandparent to experience that.
Yeah.
I want that with my children now. So I did, and I think that in some ways, I was perceived as maybe a lax parent, because I didn't have you kids in one activity after another, and I didn't have you doing this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
It's like I had no faculties to make that happen.
Sure.
I didn't have the mental or physical wherewithal to make that happen, let alone working full-time outside the home, your father working full-time outside the home, living a distance away from the city where I worked and the city where we lived.
Sure. Yeah.
There was no chance that you guys were going to get extracurricular activities until you were old enough to get yourselves there. There was no public transportation. There was nothing we could rely on.
We're in a third-ring suburb. Yeah, it's not really built to... Like, they sell it as, like, the perfect area to raise a family. But, like, it's I feel like what you're talking about is, like, a lack of connection and connectivity here.
Yes. And for many... In many regards, that worked for me because I was, and I continue to be, an extreme introvert.
Okay, yes.
And many people I've talked to over my life said, you're not an introvert. And they don't understand that introvert does not mean shy.
Right.
Introvert means an extrovert. How do you get your energy? And when I'm around a lot of people, my energy is zapped.
Mm-hmm.
Can't relate.
I was just say I am the same way.
Yeah, and so I mean, all of those things factored into how I thought of myself as a parent, and I thought of myself as a parent who fell short, often, mostly. And on the other hand, there were times where I thought, I'm not so bad as a parent.
Yeah.
I'm not tying my kids to trees.
I'm not tying them to trees. Yeah. All kinds of things I'm not doing.
Yeah.
But, and I also think, one of the things I used to think about a lot was, my parents' response when we would hold them to account for something. And they would say, well, I tried my best. And I've always struggled with that notion that parents are trying their best or doing their best. It's like, no, you're not. Be honest. If you were trying your best, it would be like physical output, that you're constantly at 100%. Your heart can't take that, right? You have a resting heart rate, right? And your resting heart rate allows your body to get through the day, recover, relax. You're not always exercising or running at your hardest, 100%. You would die.
You would die, yes.
Yeah. So, and I always felt that way about parenting. It's like, I'm doing my best. I would phrase it as I'm doing what I can.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's my best, and sometimes on a bad day, it's my worst. And you're getting crappy mom.
Yeah.
You're not getting best mom. You're getting crappy mom. And I can't change that. That's a reality. And so, as much as I would like to rake myself over the coals for that, I don't.
No.
And no parent should. You too shouldn't.
No.
Right.
Because you recognize some days what you're bringing to the game is your worst.
Yeah.
Your worst dad, your worst mom.
Yeah.
And other days you're at your best. And the fact is, just be real about where your energy is. Be real with your kid as much as you can. And there was a lot I did to screw you guys up. And people used to say, are you saving for college? And I said, no, I'm saving for therapy. I've got a therapy fund for these kids. They're going to need it.
Shout out to Missy. I give you a lot of money.
Again, every episode.
Every single episode.
Yeah,
but all of that said does not negate the fact that routinely I wanted to beat up small children for harassing my kids.
Yeah.
And then I had plans to go on and beating up their parents.
Oh,
man. And I wanted to wring their necks. And I knew that I could also be sort of an explosive mom.
Sure.
And learning to rein that back in. So I learned a lot about managing my personality and my character traits by trying to be a mom who wasn't a total wacko. So, and it's just gotten complicated, and it's a joy to be your mother. I love my children.
I love you, Mom.
Yeah.
I love you, Mom.
It's a joy to be your son.
Yeah.
It's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I think it's, and we've had this conversation a lot, that you think, oh, I'm sorry for the way I did this, and I'm sorry for the way I did that, but I'm like, I think, when I went to go see the psychiatrist to get on some new meds, and it's in the medical notes, like her charting, but I couldn't screenshot it, because the phone would just be like, no, it's HIPAA!
Oh, yeah.
But it said, patient refers to her refers to her childhood as quote unquote pretty Gucci.
Oh my God. I mean, and that I will say this, that was the other one of the bright spots on an ongoing, nearly daily basis was the sense of humor you kids had and the weirdo things you would say. And just
Yeah, that's not a recent development at all.
no. And I there are always favorite things that you've said that just push me over the edge. And for you, Rob, it was pulling into a driveway and you're saying, so Mom, tell me again, what does a bushwhacker do? And then on another
Was
day,
there a
it's like,
conversation before that about bushwhackers, or was it completely out of nowhere?
no, we had undoubtedly talked about
Okay.
bushwhackers. And
Yeah.
then he said, so Mom, what would be the best state to live in if you were going to be an alligator wrestler?
What?
And I said,
Florida.
Probably Florida. And Rob's response was, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Think about career options. It's
Yeah.
never too early.
Yeah. And Rachel, just your ongoing sense of humor and just being an explosive personality.
Yeah.
And I have, of course, listened
boisterous
to your
bitch,
earlier
as we've
podcast.
established.
And I do think that this notion of self-hate is an important one to examine because as a woman who was, I was slightly overweight in high school, in middle school, and became obese after into adulthood.
Yeah.
And that sense of self-hate is powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even really realize it until talking about it.
Yeah.
Like listening back to yourself
Yes,
talk about
yes,
it. Yeah,
that was
very recently. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, and I've always said that just talking out loud has been the best therapy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Missy.
Shout out to anybody that listens to me jab.
Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah. So I think I am pro therapy for everybody. At some point, talk therapy can be hugely beneficial in identifying your issues and why you make certain choices, and helps you identify for the choices I'm making that I'm not happy with, how can I change those? It's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys another question?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about it.
When do you feel most like Mom?
When I try to make plans with people and I say, no, my baby is sleeping. Or when people are like, and I say like Monday through Friday, I'm here at the house and I can't escape. I'm in house arrest.
This is my sentence. Yep.
Yeah.
I you know what? Excuse me. After you guys were born, I developed a global mom feeling about the world.
A global mom feeling? Can
Yes.
you expand on that?
So I would look at your friends and have mom feelings for them and think, I am a somewhat intuitive person and I could see when they were in pain and I would want to offer them comfort and, whether that was through a discussion or some other form of support, and just to look at people on the street and think in terms of, this mom sort of love, that, you want to provide that kind of unconditional, soulful peace and recovery from whatever is troubling you. And for me, again, being an introvert, it's kind of hard for me to act on that. So I think these thoughts privately and from afar.
Yes.
People don't know how deeply loving I am. That's the sad
Because they never
thing.
experience it.
No.
Yeah.
And that's their loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever I hear like an upset child at the store, I'm like, does it need a teat?
Good grief.
That's pretty mom feeling.
That's pretty mom. Like, yeah, pretty mom. Yeah.
Lord.
I'm glad we could explore what these roles mean to you and how you feel like you fulfill them. Mom, I got a question just for you.
Yeah.
What has been the most surprising part of being grandma?
The fact that I seem to experience it differently than other grandparents do.
How do you mean?
As I mentioned earlier, people would say, oh, I get to do things with my grandkids that, I never did with my own kids. I was intentional about doing that with you guys.
Yeah.
When you were little.
Yeah.
Whether you knew it or not. That's something else.
Yeah.
But it's a joy for me to see the children interact and grow.
That's the swing.
Oh, okay.
Develop. Okay. It's a little concerning. And it's a joy to watch you guys interact with your own children. And again, even though I'm your mom, I am still an introvert, so I don't tell you everything that I'm thinking.
I wish you would.
Probably, I don't know that you would want me to.
No,
I think we're okay.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
Hard to disagree. I want to know everything.
I don't know. It's I love my grandkids, but you know what? I love my own kids even more. And I know that's sort of like a
fuck them kids.
No, it's not. It feels like a betrayal to grandparenthood.
Yeah,
no. Well,
when I think that people say, "Oh, I love my grandkids." Oh,
yeah.
And here's the honest. And I would tell anybody, and now I'm telling you that little bitty children are not my favorite.
They're not fun.
No, they're demanding, and they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Evolution made them that way, right? For a reason. But the thing that I know, because I'm so smart, is that if you don't invest in the relationship from the very beginning, you're not going to get the relationship you want in the end. So if I want to have a close, meaningful relationship with my kids or my grandkids, I better invest in that when it's uncomfortable and unpleasant and fun and involves poopy diapers and getting puked on and so that when they're this age, your age, old, I can have conversations with you that are deep and meaningful.
Yeah. I've seen a lot on my algorithm talking about parenthood, obviously, because I'm followed some of those pages, and they talk about like if you want to be someone who your adult children come to, you have to be someone who they want to come to when you're a kid. Like, they have to want to like hang out with you.
Yes.
Yeah, they have to like you said, put the work in and invest in those early relationships.
Yes.
Sorry. Let's just talk about the background noise really quick.
Yeah, it's picking up a little bit.
It's a full family event at my house, and
everyone is here.
And everyone is here, and including 2 loud children.
Yes.
Sorry about it.
Who are playing downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Linnea's banging at the gate right now, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Rachel knows every sound in this
I
house.
sure is. Yes. Yes. There's we had issues with our smoke alarms, and this firefighter came over because it was a decent issue. And he was just like, "Oh, do your fire alarm or do your smoke alarms always stay green?" And I said, "No, about like every 90 seconds they blink red for like 1 second." And I would know that because I've spent hours staring at that tiny light in this dark room. And he's like, "Oh yeah,
cool.
Remember those days?"
I watched a lot of cooking videos in those early days. Rachel.
Yep.
Who do you hope Linnea will be?
Just like me.
That's all right. Moving on. No. If you want to unpack that or expand.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I want Linnea to be whoever the fuck she wants to be. And she's just such a cool kid already. And I think one of the best parts of having a kid is not knowing how they're going to be when they get older like that. Like, one of like the only reasons I've ever considered having a second is to just see what it looks like and be like, oh, okay. Anyway.
Neat. Just go to that character creation screen and
only one and one. Build my avatar.
Yeah.
So no, I think Eric and I desperately want her to get into swimming.
Sure.
what is she going to be when she grows up? What kind of friends is she going to have? So something that I think about all the time with especially mom saying like, I don't think I was a very good mom. I thought mom was a fantastic mom, and I thought I was a shit kid. And so I get very nervous about the fact that mom was such a good mom, and I was still such a little twat. And
it's a high bar. Yeah.
When I was a teenager, I was horrendous.
But you're supposed to be that way when you're a teenager.
I think I was over the bar horrendous.
No.
All right.
Well, I don't think so. Either one of you. I think, and I will say this, that the personalities that you kids had as infants and babies, that's who you have always been. It's just been a lifetime of watching that unfold.
Yeah.
Like a flower blossoming.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, just like that.
Put that on a Mother's Day card, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, really, you were an introspective kid who was always thinking big thoughts.
Yes.
And Rachel was always explosive and had this big personality.
What?
And but the parts that you guys hide, you hide parts of yourselves now. That was open when you were children, and you've learned over time to hide them. You are both highly sensitive. You are both very much in tune with the feelings of other people around you, but you may not admit that. And because you do it for self-protection.
Yeah.
Because it's about vulnerability.
Yes.
And I've seen you through the various kind of bullying that happened for various kinds of reasons, that vulnerability, as opposed to unfolding, it folded in.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that's how you survive as a kid.
And it's tragic. It's sad.
It is.
Because the two of you would say the most loving things about the world around you. And you loved the world. The world was a mystery, and you loved it. And then, the little assholes that I felt I needed to beat up along the lines screwed that all up. And made you fear vulnerability. So if there was one thing I would tell you as a mom is explore that vulnerability and work towards getting to a place where you're more willing and open to being vulnerable, your real self with the people that you love in your life.
Yeah.
And when I was able to start to get to that point was just in the last few years, and my perception of the world changed significantly as a result of it. Yeah. And sadly, it started the night your dad died.
Well, sure. I mean, it's a big changing shift event. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that was like, for whatever reason, the light bulb went off for me that night, and I thought, I mean, the obvious, my life has changed forever, but I need to change. And without it becoming a whole different podcast, that was a fundamental, deep-seated need that I had, and I recognized in that moment. If I wanted things to be different, I needed to change.
Yeah. I think it's a good lesson for everybody. Some great mom wisdom.
Yeah.
If you want things to change, you gotta change.
Yeah.
And great mom wisdom that I'm obsessed with who Linnea is now. So if she just stays the same,
that's very true.
Dope.
Always too. She's 20 years old and she's still saying.
Sorry, but.
But yeah, to your note about being an introspective kid with big thoughts, like I think Mo right now, like Olivia's 5 and she has big thoughts, and I recognize like Olivia's so much like me, and I see her having these big thoughts and these big questions. Like just this morning, Mo was like, I'm like concerned about Olivia's preoccupation with death and mortality, because she asks a lot of questions about it.
Yes.
And I'm pretty frank with her and like honest and like real. I make it a point not to like sugarcoat reality for her, really. But I think it is so like big thought to Olivia, then she fixates on things already anyways, and she fixates, like we had this was it this morning? Or I think it was this morning. We walked out the door and there was a dead robin like in our walkway. Aww. Yeah, it was just like died in the storm or hit the window or something like that. And it was just it was immediate, like just like so many questions, like how did it die? What did it die from? What was it like? What do you think? And then like so what do we do with it now?
Yeah.
They wound up going out the back door, and I picked up 2 sticks and moved it somewhere else in the front yard and buried it under leaves. So it's solved right now.
Yeah.
But, like 8, 9, 10 hours later, Olivia's still like, what do you think killed that bird?
Yeah.
Why did that bird die? And most is
Yeah.
like, like down the road, there was like a rabbit that was killed by roadkill, whatever, weeks ago. And she'd be like, why did that rabbit die?
Yeah.
What do you think the rabbit was like?
Yeah.
She's
Oh.
asking all these big questions. It's like, I just see the wheels turn the way it was in me. And, I think that like, Rachel is very much like Dad. I'm a lot more like you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, lots of nods. And,
In my opinion, in every single way. I think
Yeah.
I am just a complete DNA
Just a
copy and
copy
paste
paste
of Dad, and you are copy paste of Mom, except for the fact that you got brown on the way.
I did. I got tan.
Yeah.
That's about the only difference. Yeah. So I want to thank you for like being able to, like you said, just like cultivate and be real with us.
Yeah.
Because that's really a big surprise. It's affected the way I parent my child.
Yeah.
And I think in a very positive, wholesome, realistic way.
Good.
Yeah, so
I'm
thank you for setting the bar so high.
relieved to hear that.
Yeah, I'm sure that was
I
something
mean,
that would
I-
fuck you up forever if you're thinking about it too much. Yeah.
I would 100% think that we're both good parents because we had 2 good parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
High five.
We're high-fiving over the microphone. I think that's really good. We are only about 30 minutes in. Perfect.
Okay.
Let's see here. I was going to ask you, Mom, about what has surprised you about us as we've grown up, but I think you've kind of covered that already, which is perfect. I want to maybe close out with a question again for each of you. What have you learned from your mom?
Yeah, that's more of a laugh for Mom.
Yeah, you better answer first.
Yeah.
Oof. That, I think, one of the most important things that I learned from Mom that it is, which you've already talked about, is that you don't have to be the parent that you had. Because, you'll go into it. But that Mom and Dad were both unfortunately raised. And we weren't there for it, and I think there is, as real as you and Dad are, well, Dad's not very real. In the fact that he wasn't honest about his childhood.
Oh, yeah, so the sense that he's deceased.
Correct. That too. So, no, I think you've been more open, but there's probably fucked up things that we don't know. But
There's children in the other room.
I think I see so many of my friends' moms, or just my friends, like, all of my friends are jealous that I have you, and people will say, like, well, okay, if your mom said it, then that's what I'm doing, because Rachel's mom is the queen bitch.
The standard, yes.
Yes, which you are, in my opinion, in every way. And I always tell people, my mom is real to a fault for giving me a B- on my apple pie. # never forget.
I did keep it real.
Yeah.
Have we told that story?
I don't fucking think so.
Yeah.
Let's dig into it. My non-flaky enough apple pie. In 9th grade, we were in facts class, and you had to make an apple pie,
What
homemade
is
apple
facts?
pie. Family and children's studies.
I think it's family and cooking skills.
For sure.
They give us that. We never learned how to do our taxes or balance a checkbook, but we learned how to cook for a family.
No, we did. There was senior skills. That was an elective that you could take.
Senior skills.
Yeah.
I think I took that.
Yeah. So anyway, I made my apple pie, and you were supposed to judge your own pie, then bring it to a teacher, a friend, and a parent. And they're all supposed to judge it, and that's your cumulative grade. And everyone brought their pies home, and their parents gave them an A because they weren't assholes.
It is rebel.
And then I turned in my report thing to Miss Venus, and she was just like, whoa.
Even your teacher.
Yes. I remember standing in her office and she was like, a B-.
Damn.
And she was like, and a note that says like the crust should have been flakier. And it was like one other thing, like not enough brown sugar on the apples or something.
Yeah.
And I was just like, back then I was just like, yeah, my mom's a bitch. 'Cause, I mean, that was 14, prime. I hate my mom.
Prime parent
era,
age,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I always tell people that my mom was a realist to a fault, as in, she's not going to sugarcoat it. Like, there is room for improvement in this apple pie. The crust could have been flakier.
Where's the lie?
I'm saying. So, yeah, no, I think a lot of my friends are envious of you, and a lot of my friends' moms are crazy. And I think are just super affected by their past, and I'm just like, I mean, your grandma's probably not as fucked up as my grandma. Why is your mom so fucked up? And but yeah, I think you guys are just such good, you and Dad are such good representations of the fact that you can move past your not move past it, but like work through your trauma and not let it affect how you parent. And, the old school thought of, well, my parents did it like this, so I'm going to do it like that.
Yeah.
And, you, on your worst days, you were probably not nearly as bad as some of Grandma's, like, best days of being a mom. Hard truth. But, yeah, I think I always say, before I was a mom, that if I could be half the person you are, I would be super happy, and now half the mom you are, I'd be super happy. And now I would assume that I'm gonna be a super great mom because I had you as a mom and you didn't fuck me up.
Well, you haven't had enough podcast episodes to determine that.
Right.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, I think you guys have been a great example of the power of
Cycle breaking.
Yeah. Because, man, you guys could have followed through with that.
Yeah.
And you didn't.
Really glad.
Yeah.
Yeah, big appreciation for sure.
Yeah, thanks for not being abusive or having a drinking problem.
Yeah.
Well, who said I wasn't or didn't?
I'm wasted right now!
Surprise.
Yeah.
So I guess to turn that, Mom, what have you learned from your mother?
As I mentioned earlier, my relationship with my parents was complicated.
Yes.
And we had a lot of challenges that, frankly, a lot of families have. We were working class and often poor. My father was a big strike union supporter, so when they went on strike, he was supported. And I was born during the longest strike that had ever happened at that plant. Yeah.
Wow.
How long did it last?
Huh?
How long did it last?
Months.
Okay.
Many months long. And they, as many people in that era, and probably still today, they were not well matched. And you got married for a lot of reasons that had nothing to do with the fact that you actually liked the person.
Yeah, compatibility was not high on the list of reasons to pair.
Right. And they both brought issues to the table. And my mother, yes, she had a drinking problem. She would sometimes refer to herself as having a problem with alcohol or an alcoholic, and sometimes she would say, I'm going to stop drinking. And she didn't. And she also had mental health issues that went unaddressed. I know that she sought out therapy, but
like later on in life, or
when we were kids, older kids, teenagers.
Okay.
But knowing who the therapist was and what the dynamics were at that particular mental health center, I know that she was not getting
Taken
adequate
care of.
mental health care by a long shot.
And this would have been in like the 60s or 70s?
It would have been the early to mid 70s when this was going on.
So I mentioned the field is not as robust as it is today.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no missies out there.
And there was still, a lot of flakiness and hippy dippy shit that was going on. And I love me some hippy dippy shit at times.
You sure do.
But not when it comes to my mental health.
Yeah, that should be solidly science
hippy dippy
based.
music when you get drunk.
Yeah.
God.
And but alternately from my mother, I learned compassion,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned hospitality.
Hmm.
And I don't mean surface level hospitality.
Yeah.
I mean truly opening your home and your heart to others.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm going to say, being an introvert,
Yes.
acting on that, for me, took a different approach than what my mother would do. I mean, there were times where we joke, the key was above the door, and we would come home and people would be sleeping on our couch.
Yeah.
We thankfully knew these people,
Yeah.
but it was unannounced. They'd come in the middle of the night, but they knew they were welcome.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about the fact that you guys were working class. You didn't have a ton of money to be serving
No.
all these mouths, but mouths still came and you still fed them.
Yes, I mean, and 3 blocks down from us, we lived in a very working class
Sure.
neighborhood. And 3 blocks down was what they called the juvenile delinquent home.
Mm.
It was a foster care home for kids who had all kinds of issues, some of which had nothing to do with delinquency, but with parents who were kicking them out.
Sure.
And we were judged as kids for having them as friends, but my mother accepted them. And they would come to our house and eat whatever meager
Yeah.
rations we had, we shared with them. And they would sit down and say, I've never had a family experience like this. I've never had love like this. And it moved them greatly. And my mother was also highly intelligent and highly talented. She was an incredibly creative person. So I got to see, the expression of her creativity. She was a singer and a songwriter. She was a musician. And
She has records.
yeah,
Printed records.
she
Yeah.
had
She's
more,
on YouTube.
Is she
more
really?
talent. She had more talent than she had courage to act on.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because you guys, the name Tex Ritter undoubtedly means nothing to you. But back in the day, in the early 70s, Tex Ritter was a player in country music. And my mother played at, the first time she played in public, and the first time she played a 12-string guitar was in front of the President's Committee on Mental Retardation, which is what it was called.
Yeah, back then.
In 73.
Yeah.
It was the first time the President of the United States had this conference, and my mother was one of the keynote presenters and singers.
Wow.
And she taught herself how to play the 12-string guitar for that. My mother was a talent where she could not read music, but she was first chair violin in her high school orchestra because the conductor, their music teacher, would play the piece for her, and she could play it by ear. She had perfect pitch.
Yeah.
Highly unique. In any event, at that concert in 1973, the conference,
Yes.
Tex Ritter's wife was there. She went home and told her husband Tex about this talent. And Tex wrote her a letter saying, my wife says you're incredibly talented and she knows talent. And you should come and we can give you a recording career. But she was the mother of 6 kids.
Yeah.
In a small working class neighborhood in a small town. And the idea that could be a possibility, I think, was overwhelming.
Sure.
It takes a certain kind of personality to step up to that and say, oh, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my mom was plagued by doubts.
Yeah.
And so never acted on that. She was also very artistic. She could paint. So yes, there was a lot that I could appreciate about my mom, and there was a lot of pain. And so what I learned, as I mentioned earlier, was I'm going to be intentional, conscientious about being a different kind of parent. And I had spent, from the time, pre-pubescent, when you're just chock full of hormones and you go from being a sweet child to a beastly monster.
Yes.
I don't know what that's.
My relationship with my mother was harmed and was bad, and was bad for most of my adult life.
Yeah.
But I still appreciate all the good things she did.
Yeah.
And appreciate what it meant for her to be able to do those things even with her own struggles. Because today, if she were a friend or a colleague or my own child, I would look at him and think, you have this substance abuse problem. You have a mental health issue. These are both untreated, and you are such an incredible person. There is so much for you.
Yeah.
You know, if I were her, that's where I was, again, saying that global mother feeling.
Yeah.
I can look at my own parents and have that kind of compassion for them, even though the pain that came out of those relationships was pretty dang real.
Yeah. Profound. Yeah.
And I think, like, we were the closest with her out of all
She
the
lived, like,
grandparents.
down the street from us for a long time.
Yeah, Mom loved it.
Yeah. Thrilled. I remember when you got there.
I don't know if you necessarily considered yourself very close with Grandma.
I guess not terribly. She watched us after school, but that was about it.
Yeah, she had us do Kumon.
Well, that's if your mom and dad had you.
Yeah, we just did it while we were there.
But then she made us delicious tuna.
Yeah, tuna frosting.
Tuna frosting,
so much
baby!
sugar.
Where did these eating habits come
Wait,
from?
why do we all get so
Why am I addicted to sugar?
Yeah.
Sugar is in everything. Yeah.
Yep.
You put sugar in your sugar.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Mom.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this time with us. Thank you for being our mom.
And being vulnerable.
Being vulnerable. Yeah.
And it is. I mean, if you ever want to get together and be vulnerable again, you just let me know. I'm
And
there
record
for
it.
Shockingly, I don't love being vulnerable super often.
It's weird.
But I'll have to take you up on it. I'm sure I've told you this before, but even from my position as your child, I'm very proud of you and you and Dad, and like what you guys have managed. Like knowing a little bit of your context and your background, like what you've managed to accomplish and how you've raised us.
For real.
Yeah, being able to like take a step back and like not completely objectively, but with a more clear eye, like examine like the cycles that you guys have broken and the way that you've treated us and raised us and the way that we can then pass these lessons on to our kids.
Yeah.
I think is just so hugely important and hugely valuable, and I thank you for that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I love you guys forever, and I remember Rachel, one of you asking me, is there ever anything I could do that would make you stop loving me? I said never, and was like, what if I killed someone?
Yeah.
I said I would still love you. I wouldn't like the behavior, but I would still love you. I will always love you.
Love that, but I love you.
And I do love you guys.
Yeah.
And I love who you are. And just to be clear, I would still beat people up for you.
I appreciate that, Mom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I just make a side
Yeah.
request? Can you give your little take? Because I don't think anybody knows Dad like you know Dad.
Yeah.
So what do you think Dad's take would be on us doing this podcast, on us like being in this room together? And
He would absolutely love it. As long as you didn't tell the secrets that he never wanted told.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
man.
I imagine he'd be mortified, but yeah.
yeah.
Yes. But he would be so immensely proud of both of you for living lives that bring you joy. You know, when I hear about other people and what their kids are doing or whatever, I want to hear, what I want to hear as a mom is, do they have joy in their life?
Yeah.
Do they have love in their life?
Yeah.
Are they feeling courageous and confident? Anything else is gravy,
Sure.
you know? And you guys have that. I see the joy
Yeah.
in your lives.
Yeah. I think one, I have this conversation at the dinner table quite often. Is like how fortunate we are to have lives so full of love.
Yeah.
Because it just infects every corner of everything we do, and we're extremely fortunate for that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's a good place to end the
Yeah.
podcast. All right.
I think so.
Thank you guys very much. I'm not going to do the plug because it feels
Insensitive.
Yeah, it feels a little
I
insensitive to do
know.
that right
Plug
now.
it. RF Fitness.
Yeah. If you wanna, jump on your own fitness journey, and I'm not gonna promise you can have a deep conversation with my mom. That's gonna be like a double diamond platinum
Back off,
level
she's my mom.
subscription.
Yeah, right. What level of subscription does it include?
Subscription do you get to talk with my mom for a long time? I don't know. Go find out at rffitness.net, rffitness.net to find out more and begin your quest. Thank you guys so much. Rachel, I love you. Mom, I love you.
Rob, I love you. Rachel,
Thank you guys very
I love
much.
You.
I love you guys.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
And then we'll stop.